You Ivy League educated lunatics are two of the most self-centered, narcissistic human beings I've ever seen in my life.
When you see this symbol, you know this program is educational, informational, and entertaining.
It's the morning after April Fool's Day across America. Welcome to the 411 for Kids. I'm Ali Velshi. While my generation grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, you kids are stuck with government-mandated educational programming. I'm on assignment covering the Russian invasion of Ukraine for cable news, but on this program we'll take a kid-friendly look at current events back home in America. Unless ratings tank and this show gets replaced with reruns of Earth Odyssey with Dylan Dreyer. Let's lead off with the biggest story of the week, Will Smith's confrontation with host Chris Rock at the Academy Awards last Sunday evening. Here's what happened.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
Greatest night indeed. My apologies for the crude language. So what is G.I. Jane? And why did that make Will Smith lose his cool? Let's ask the star of G.I. Jane, actress Demi Moore.
Great to be here, Ali.
Or should I say, the star of G.I. Jane 1.
As far as I know, there are no plans for a sequel.
So Demi, please explain G.I. Jane for us.
G.I. Jane is a military movie from 1997 in which I played Jordan O'Neill, who was trying to become the first woman to complete training to join the Navy SEALs, a super elite special operations force.
Tell us about your hair in the film.
I had a shaved head, so when men in the military go through basic training, they get their heads shaved. In the film, Jordan wants to be just like the men, so she walks into an empty barbershop, grabs some clippers and shaves off all her hair. So I basically did the same thing as Britney Spears, only a decade earlier and for a movie.
As a bald person myself, I must point out, you had a buzz cut throughout the film. So Jordan O'Neill wasn't exactly as bald as Michael Jordan.
Yes, but I had to keep my head buzzed for several months during filming.
Good point.
And we live in a society that considers it perfectly normal and acceptable for men to have shaved heads. But when a woman shaves her head, whether by choice or out of necessity, she is either pitied or outright ridiculed.
That's very true. So why did the G.I. Jane reference make Will Smith so angry?
Will's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, keeps her head shaved due to her alopecia areata, a hair loss disorder. I don't know if Chris Rock knew about her condition, but he made fun of her by joking that she'd be the next G.I. Jane.
Why must she keep her head shaved?
She'd have random bald patches around her head otherwise. Given the choice, she'd rather keep it shaved. And it's brave of her to appear in public like this, because other women with alopecia would wear wigs.
Do you feel that Will Smith crossed the line when he went after Chris Rock?
No, I would say that Chris was the one who crossed the line, because he provoked Will with that joke about Jada. Listen, if anyone wants to make fun of me for pulling a Britney Spears 25 years ago, that's fine. But it's never okay under any circumstances to mock a woman who loses her hair from a medical condition.
Thank you for sharing those great insights, Demi.
Anytime, Ali.
Now let's hear from a woman who, like Jada Pinkett Smith, has alopecia areata. Welcome, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts.
Ali, I didn't know you were hosting kids shows now, and that's quite a scenic view.
I just hosted my 2-hour cable show from this hotel terrace overlooking Old Town Lviv. Behind me are the clock tower of the 17th century Bernardine Church and Monastery and the equally old Carmelite Church with its twin steeples.
That must be a great hotel.
I highly recommend Ibis Styles Lviv Center. So Congresswoman, please describe your experience with baldness.
It's not easy. As Demi mentioned, society accepts bald men but not bald women. And not only are we black women constantly scrutinized for our hair, but black women are more likely than women of other races to develop alopecia.
Let's get to Will Smith's behavior. Was it okay for him to lash out at Chris Rock?
I don't believe that violence solves anything, nor is it okay to curse out anyone. But Will's anger was certainly justified. Chris had no business turning Jada's alopecia into something to laugh about.
Later that evening, Smith apologized to the Academy, but not to Rock, in his tearful acceptance speech for his Best Actor Oscar for King Richard. And he was rewarded with a standing ovation. Was this okay?
Absolutely. Will owed the Academy an apology for creating a scene earlier, and he was genuinely contrite. But he doesn't owe Chris an apology. Chris is the one who should be apologizing to Will and Jada.
Should Smith have been ejected from the theater following his outburst?
No. Will was standing up for Jada. Chris Rock's vicious joke was inexcusable.
Congresswoman Presley, thank you for joining the 411 for Kids.
Thank you, Allie.
Now, what would it be like to endure baldness in childhood? You may be familiar with our next guest. This youngster from Canada is the star of the children's show Caillou. From our Rockefeller Center studio in New York City, here's Caillou Anderson.
An all-black background? What's this, Charlie Rose on PBS?
Charlie who? So a fellow Canadian, eh? I'm from Toronto.
I had a bad experience there some years back.
Last year your show was cancelled in the US on the eve of the January 6th Capitol riot. What odd timing.
Yeah, well, my dad asked PBS to cancel my show after I got into an argument with our church's pastor on a Zoom call.
That's a harsh punishment.
The lady raised a rainbow pride flag outside the church, without even putting it to a vote. When women can be pastors, anything goes.
Okay. So Caillou, what was it like to lose your hair at such a young age?
Actually, I was born permanently bald, so I never had any hair to begin with.
Oh. Have you been called names for being bald?
All the time, by both kids and adults. I've been called whiny bald brat and bald-headed little terror and undisciplined bald monster.
I can't imagine how difficult it must be for a child to go through that. Was it okay for Will Smith to slap Chris Rock after Rock joked about his wife's baldness?
I can't believe people are defending Will Smith. Yes, that was a mean joke, but come on. If some no-name slapped Chris Rock, they'd be arrested. And if I did something like that, my parents would ground me till July. Everyone calls me entitled, but Will Smith is a truly entitled Hollywood celebrity. His image may be tarnished, but he'll walk away from this with no real punishment.
You're wise beyond your years, Caillou. Thank you for joining us today.
You haven't seen the last of me, Mr. Velshi.
Okay. Now enough about Will Smith. Let's move on to our next current event. Listen to this odd response from Ketanji Brown Jackson, President Biden's nominee for the Supreme Court, when questioned at her confirmation hearing by Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No,
Yeah,
I can't.
you can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide. So I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
So Judge Jackson couldn't define the word woman. Joining us now in our New York studio are three high-profile transgender women. 1970s Olympic track star and recent long-shot candidate for California Governor Caitlyn Jenner.
Wow, Ali Velshi on location in Ukraine.
College swimmer Leah Thomas from the University of Pennsylvania.
Glad to be on the program.
And U.S. Assistant Health Secretary Dr. Rachel Levine, a Harvard grad recently appointed by the Biden administration to another fancy position.
That's right, Ali. To quote from my swearing-in speech, I am honored to serve as the first female four-star officer of the U.S. Public Health Service Commissioned Corps, and the first openly transgender four-star officer to serve across any of the 8 uniformed services.
Admiral Levine, what does it mean to be transgender?
When a baby is born, the doctor assigns a gender and says, it's a boy, or it's a girl. But what if a child who was called a boy actually feels like a girl inside, even though everyone says, you're a boy, over and over? And what if another child who was called a girl feels like a boy? Transgender people are those whose gender identity is the opposite of the gender assigned at birth. And besides transgender, there are also non-binary individuals whose gender identity is neither male nor female.
What is the opposite of transgender?
Cisgender, or cis for short. Most people are cisgender, meaning the gender assigned to them at birth matches the gender they identify with.
And what exactly is a transgender woman?
That is an adult who was assigned male at birth but whose gender identity is female. Some transgender women only change their names and pronouns, but others undergo gender-affirming surgery and hormone therapy. Caitlyn's surgery was well publicized.
Gender-affirming surgery? Isn't that the same as sex reassignment?
Correct. To affirm a transgender person's gender identity means to accept and respect it. And gender-affirming surgery aligns that person's body with their gender identity.
Leah Thomas, as a transgender woman swimming against cisgender women, how would you react to this statement? A woman is an adult human female.
I take issue with it. Transphobes love that definition because their agenda is to restrict the sphere of womanhood to cis women and exclude trans women altogether. I know that I'm a woman. I may have been assigned male at birth, but that doesn't make me any less of a woman or a female.
Caitlyn Jenner, as a former athlete yourself, what are your thoughts on Leah Thomas competing with cisgender women? Leah recently won the 500-yard women's freestyle event at the NCAA Championship in Atlanta.
Leah, you have every right to live your authentic life as a woman. But let's face it, you're a biological male competing against biological females. You transitioned, no pun intended, from a mediocre men's swimmer to a women's swimmer who is dominating the field. You're taller, stronger, and faster than most of your opponents because you went through male puberty. Women's sports exist to give biological females a fair chance to compete. The rightful winner of that freestyle race was Emma Wyant, an actual biological female.
Caitlyn, my hormone treatment made me lose speed and muscle mass. And there are cis women who are naturally taller and stronger. But do we disqualify them? I follow the NCAA rules. I underwent over 2 years of hormone replacement. I haven't done anything wrong.
Yes, you did follow the rules, but no amount of hormone replacement can reverse the effects of male puberty.
Caitlyn, you should be supporting Leah in her pursuits, not knocking her down. After all, you too are a transgender woman.
I'm also a lifelong Republican and the newest Fox News contributor.
The more you know.
Jenner.
What's this?
Jenner, we have a score to settle.
If it isn't my bald-headed schoolboy nemesis from Canada, Caillou, it's been a few years.
Caillou, what are you doing? Your segment is over.
Mr. Velshi, I couldn't care less about Will Smith's wife. I came on this show for one reason, because I knew Jenner would be here.
What's going on here?
Jenner, my parents made me march at Toronto's Pride Parade in women's clothing and makeup because of you. And I had to march beside Justin Trudeau, so I was all over the news. And it's all your fault. That was my punishment for our quarrel when you spoke at my school.
Your parents made you cross-dress and march in a pride parade for insulting me. And you're blaming me. That's like wrecking your dad's car and then blaming your teacher.
Now this is what I call must-see TV. We didn't plan any of this, but do stick around.
Jenner, you're a fraud. Social justice warriors praised you as some sort of hero for transitioning. And you even won the Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the ESPYs. What's so courageous about sex reassignment?
I will not dignify that with an answer.
Young man, transgender people are not frauds. Gender dysphoria is not a mental illness. Some of us may undergo years of inner turmoil and confusion before discovering our authentic selves.
I'm not a transphobe, but I will most certainly call out asinine behavior when I encounter it. Dr. Levine, what business do you have calling yourself the first female to hold your position? You're a biological male.
I am the first woman and first female 4-star officer of the USPHS Commission Corps. Don't call me a male.
So transitioning isn't just cosmetic, and a male can actually be transformed into a female? How did your kids react when they heard Dad was divorcing Mom and changing his name from Richard to Rachel?
You leave my children out of this. Yes, people assigned male at birth can have their bodies surgically and hormonally converted to female. The three of us here are proof.
I guess medical schools no longer teach that biological sex is unchangeable. And Leah Thomas, what business do you have stealing trophies from actual female athletes? Seriously. By now everyone knows you never won anything when you were Will Thomas of the men's swim team.
Hey Lex Luthor, don't spread lies about us trans women athletes. We aren't threatening women's sports or stealing trophies from women because, guess what? We're women too.
Calling yourself a woman means nothing. You're a biological male just like Levine and Jenner.
Caillou, do you agree with the Republicans calling out Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson for refusing to define a woman?
I don't side with Republicans or Democrats. I'm Canadian. I side with the truth. Judge Jackson's response was insane, but it's pretty obvious that the Republicans were setting a trap for her, because she knew that if she had said a woman is a female adult, then their next question would be, is Leah Thomas a woman? If she says yes, then they'd say, but you just said female adult, and Thomas is no female. And if she says no, well, trans activists would lose their marbles and turn on the Democrats for backing her. So it's a catch-22.
As a physician, I'm well qualified to provide the definition of a woman. A woman is any adult who knows she is a woman. And Leah Thomas is definitely a woman.
Yeah, according to Admiral Levine, one of USA Today's so-called Women of the Year.
Leah Thomas is a woman, certainly, but she's a trans woman who shouldn't be competing in the pool with cis women.
I am a woman and a female athlete regardless of what anyone else says.
I'm not attacking anyone's personal choice to transition, but I refuse to accept biological males competing in women's sports or claiming to be the first female to hold some post. You two have crossed the line.
Caillou, you'll never know what it's like to spend a day in a woman's shoes.
Oh yes, I do know. I was a bald drag queen for a day thanks to the artist formerly known as Bruce.
Don't compare us to drag queens. We trans women are actual women and not men who are masquerading as women.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard a medical doctor say.
Caillou, you're a spoiled cisgender troll who has no idea what we trans women go through.
And you want to brainwash kids with your hateful anti-trans views.
You've unleashed the beast.
Now you've done it, Caillou.
You Ivy League educated lunatics are two of the most self-centered, narcissistic human beings I've ever seen in my life.
No slap from me.
No, I respect the way you called out this slimy swimmer earlier.
Caillou, I was going to have security throw you out, but it turns out we have a surprise guest joining us all the way from CBC Studios in Montreal.
Did you say Montreal?
Oui, monsieur, Montreal, Quebec. Doris Anderson, welcome to the 411 for Kids.
Caillou, how dare you lie about going to a sleepover to take a red-eye flight to New York? Did you think I wouldn't call Leo's mother? That's it. You're grounded for a month.
But Mom, I wanted to tell kids in America about my struggles with baldness in the aftermath of Chris Rock humiliating Jada Pinkett Smith at the Oscars.
Oh, so you don't feel you deserve a grounding? Mr. Velshi, this show doesn't air locally here. Is this true?
Actually, he admitted he only came on the program to confront Caitlyn Jenner. And in a fit of rage, he just slapped in the face both Leah Thomas and Admiral Rachel Levine.
Oh ho 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 ho. Caillou, how dare you physically attack Leah Thomas and Admiral Levine? Didn't your father and I tell you never to hit a woman?
They're not real women. These are XY chromosome biological men.
Trans women are real women.
You ought to listen to your mother.
Now you're grounded an additional 2 months, one for each slap. So that means you're grounded through Canada Day.
So his earlier words proved prophetic. For those who don't know, Canada Day is July 1st.
If I declare that I'm female, would that make me a female?
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
That would make you a transphobe.
What? How?
When the girls' volleyball team rejects you for being a cis male, you can then demand that trans women be barred from women's sports. Why else would you falsely identify as female?
This male physician falsely identifies as the first female USPHS 4-star officer. If an actual biological woman succeeds Levine in the future, she'll be counted as the second female in that role instead of the first.
Admiral Levine is the first female USPHS 4-star officer.
Mom, you're wrong. A biological male can never be female. Male and female are distinct biological sexes.
No, Caillou, you're wrong. Male, female, non-binary and gender fluid are distinct gender identities. A woman is any adult with a female gender identity regardless of the biological sex assigned at birth.
Mic drop moment.
That's ridiculous. These people need psychiatric treatment, yet you've been brainwashed to believe their lies and encourage them in their delusions.
Caillou, I like your mother a lot.
Me too.
Mom, how'd you know I'd be on TV here?
Someone you know very well told me.
Who?
Who did you think? I followed you here.
Dad.
Sorry for interrupting your show, Mr. Velshi.
When I moved to the US, I had to learn to say sorry instead of sorry.
Will Smith may get a slap on the wrist, but your punishment goes beyond just a smack across the face. Now you heard your mother. Get ready to be grounded for the next 3 months.
Hey, I'm standing up for what's right. I'm no transphobe.
Yes, you are a transphobe. You'd better hope that Leah and Admiral Levine don't press charges. Ladies, I'm so sorry for the trouble my son has put you through. And Caitlyn, I know you endured his abuse once before. His mother and I do bear some blame as we were far too lenient with him when he was small.
And now he's a complete psychopath.
Being a PBS Kids star all these years has swollen his ego. No wonder his head looks like it's about to burst.
As a pediatrician by training, I'm grateful I've never had him as a patient, but I won't press charges.
Neither will I. I'm sure his parents have something good in store for him.
Caillou, you just made a fool of yourself on live television. Is there anything else you'd like to tell America before we return home?
I don't care what anyone says about preferred pronouns. None of Charlie's angels over there deserve to be called she.
You don't decide that. My pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Caitlyn, Rachel, Leah, Charlie's Angels 2022. I like it.
And who's our Charlie?
Caillou is our Charlie.
June is Pride Month and you'll still be grounded. Because you traveled here to attack Caitlyn Jenner a second time, Pride Toronto 2022 will witness the grand return of a certain bald-headed young drag queen.
No 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 no.
Make him dress like umbrella-swinging 2007 Britney Spears.
Hit me baby one more time.
Actually, he's right about you too. The privilege of living as trans women in America comes with great responsibility.
Perfect timing. There's the air raid siren. My producer is telling me to wrap up because, well, a certain guest made us go off script and miss our commercial break. Next week, we'll hear Senator Marco Rubio of Florida discuss his bill for year-round daylight saving time. But how would you kids from northern states feel about spending December and January mornings headed to school in the dark?